Megan, thank you so much for joining me. The first question I have is, what do you do? What is the name of your business? And where did you originally find either me or Scaling with Systems?
Yeah, so I mean, I help high ticket coaches scale to six-figure months with systems and online group programs. Um, Programs called Aligned Growth. She's not that old, but she's doing well, thanks to you.
And where did you originally find me?
Oh, where did I find you? I think we found you on YouTube, actually.
Really? Like a
Mhm.
one video you saw and then you like went down a rabbit hole and booked a call, or do you remember?
Yeah, that was literally, we've been working together for like a year. Like a
I
year
know.
ago.
It's been a while now.
I think it was maybe one or two YouTube videos. I didn't go too deep because a lot of the stuff when I came in originally to scaling with systems was pretty fresh.
Yeah,
So
that's awesome. And we're gonna get into some of the stuff that we've done together and some of the kind of stuff that you're doing in the business right now. But for people watching this video,
Mm.
like what would you say are one of the two of the like the biggest transformations or shifts that you've made since you're working with us, whether it's revenue numbers, time back, freedom, anything along those lines? Like people that are watching this that are thinking of if they're gonna stick around for the rest of the video, what's the main things that you've gotten from us so far?
Yeah, I think like your zone of genius truly is systemizing and like eliminating unnecessary processes, anything really. And I think like that's probably been the biggest thing that I've like been constantly working through with our businesses and like it is a process truly, but it's a gift of yours. Like it's so easy for you to just like spot something and be like, goodbye to this, automate this. And it's just made life so much easier and scaling so much easier.
And didn't you come in with like when you first came to us, it was like speaking of kind of the elimination side of things. I think you had like a different business partner, you had a different offer almost like, and we kind of like made a pretty hard pivot with what you were doing. Is that correct when I'm saying that?
Yeah, you're right. So we had an agency and it was purely done for you. We were doing creative and ads. And our team was massive and our margins were like non-existent. So it was like impossible for us to grow. And we realized that through your program and part of the pressure being like, gosh, can we even sign on what this program can give us? And the answer was no. So we had to make a change, just cut it loose. Um, and then made hard pivot into the group program model, which I'm still ironically doing like similar type of work, just not at all in the same capacity. So.
Yeah, I think well, obviously we're making a shift as well. Like it's not it's you. I'm happy that we made that shift from pure done for you to like a done with you, done for you blend, and we do that with a lot of our clients, especially if they're coming at us at a done for you. And I know you're really great at what you do, but you were just like sucked in with so much fulfillment work. And it's funny you had brought up the fact that like we had eliminated a lot of stuff because it was like eliminated a business partner, eliminated an offer. It was like we had really cut the baggage early on. But you know, I think sometimes you kind of need permission to do that because maybe you might know what you need to do, but maybe you also don't know what's on the other side. And talk a little bit about the ads because I know like with ads we've like turned them on. It's been amazing calls, sales, but then like obviously we're catching up with fulfillment. So walk us through a little bit of that process.
Yeah, I mean, I think like in terms of what sense on the ads, what do you want me to jump
Yeah, so
into?
like when we launched ads, so we pivoted, new offer,
Mm.
and we switched to the done with you model. Then obviously we had to create the marketing messaging around that, the video sales letter, launch the ads. Did you get book calls from the ads when we turned them off? I remember correctly, we had to turn them off. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think like right when we made the pivot, we started getting book calls right away. So it was kind of like meant to be in a sense. And like our cost per book call was like hovering around $75 to $80. So like it was pretty quick at that point as soon as we turned them on. And my problem was I had to turn them off all the time because it couldn't handle how quickly they were coming in. So
And that's obviously a great problem to have is having too many calls and you know what to do with. But like, I think that a lot of people, it's funny because you've experienced this and I have as well. It's like you think you have a marketing problem. And so you're like, ah, if I just solve this marketing problem, all my problems are going to be solved. Then we solve the marketing problem and it's like, now you have a fulfillment problem or now you have an operations problem. And I think that's why business is more of like an infinite game than a finite game is you just kind of want better problems. To me, I would always rather take a client success problem than an ads problem. And I know we've kind of pivoted a little bit towards working towards that as well. Even some of your and I's conversations have been more focused recently, I think, on like client success managers, fulfillment, systemization, stuff like that. I want to walk through that a little bit because a lot of our like scaling systems clients, we focus a lot on ads and marketing and getting more sales calls, which is amazing. And obviously we've done that with you, but I don't get to talk too
Mhm.
much to people about like the fulfillment side of things. So what are some of the changes that you've been making, that you have made, even some of the things you saw that we do with our stuff that you're like starting to pivot inside of your offers in order to kind of free your time back, get a little bit more time to be able to scale the business, take more sales calls, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, totally. I think we're still making a lot of those changes too. So like one of the things that we were doing in our pivot was like we were making like custom design done for you funnels, which are beautiful and great and like 3 pages long and like super aesthetic, but like people were just changing them anyways. So it was like we might as well just like make those on templates, have options for them to choose from. So that's one of the pivots that we are making. And then also systemizing like our client success process. So taking it from like really step by step and like building that into Asana and the team just like flows on that now. Whereas before trying to do anything in Slack was like it
A
was too
nightmare.
much for me. Too much for
Yeah.
Megan.
I
Yeah.
can appreciate it's funny when I think back of like what we do now in Asana. I'm like, wow, were we doing all of this in Slack? Because like it's just yeah, you got notifications, threads, people commenting, people checking it. It's like yeah, it's an absolute total nightmare. And it's funny that you bring up Asana as well. Were you guys using that as a client success pipeline previously? Like how did that shift a little bit? Because obviously I wouldn't say we're Asana gods, but we're whatever the step below, maybe demigods for Asana. So like how
Yeah,
did
I think
you
we were
yeah, what
using
were you
it.
guys doing?
Yeah, we were using it differently. So like everything was project based and now it's more like client based. So I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like we're running it through like the CS board style that you guys have. And I think the big thing that we did, I don't know if you guys are doing this, but like every single task and timeline is like automated now. So like the
Yeah.
minute it gets moved over, like everything is automated. And a lot of that is because we had more done for you components and it had a lot of hands to go through, which we're now trying to eliminate. But like just for us to do the funnel build and the funnel design itself was like 5 people. We'd have a designer, we'd have tech support, like they're building it into GHL, then we'd have a coordinator. So it was like everything had to be super automated and down to like the exact timeline so that we could keep the pace of people getting launched. So that was like a big thing for us. It really smoothed out fulfillment just to have that part be automated and it keeps things on track more. I think the one thing
Yeah.
that we're like still trying to pivot is like bringing it through to the next level. I'd love for
What do you
that to
mean?
be automated, but
What do you mean by bringing it through to the next level?
like each phase, like someone still has to go in there and like drag it through each phase.
Yeah,
But I
that's
think that's
you're
an
now you're
Asana
talking like
flaw.
that's like
So
yeah, that's like black belts you're talking about over here. Even
yeah.
we do that a little bit, which I'll talk about because I nerd out about this stuff.
Yeah.
But it sounds like almost one of the things I think that we did really well together is productizing what you were doing, productizing your services. Like obviously we don't sell products, and you do still have custom elements to what you do, but I think that we've done a good job at like taking pure custom work that you did previously and then like slowly starting transitioning it to where it's much more systemized and templatized. And obviously your client success is still amazing and you're having great results for your clients, but it's like
Mhm.
I think you said something that only people that have been in like bottlenecks by fulfillment can understand. You said it so casually and I appreciate it. It was you said like but previously it used to be client projects in Asana, and now it's like a client pipeline in Asana. And that's such an important change because if you think about it, a client project, like I literally, there's a rule in our company, you cannot create a new Asana project. Like I set the Asana projects and I prevent new ones from being created no matter what. Hasn't been new one created in 2 years. And instead, I like the pipelines, and because it's more standardized and it's like we already have the process, we just need to move things through it. And so it sounds like that's what we had done. It's like we went from one-off custom projects. Here's an entire pipeline for this one client to do everything. To like, here's what our client success roadmap is from A to
Process.
Z,
Yeah.
and they are just moving. Is that kind of accurate of the shift that you made?
Totally. Yeah. That's like a huge, yeah. And I think I feel like maybe I even understated that because it was such a huge pivot for us to not have to have like different custom projects for like everyone. I mean, if you think about that, even just on a weekly basis, like how much we were doing that was custom before was like insane. It was insane. And now it's like that's not even a thing. That's maybe why it was so easy for me. Like it doesn't even, it's not a thing in my mind anymore. Because now it's like, oh, this is just the way we do things.
I like it. I like
We have
it.
two project boards and it's like purely the like client success track and then tech support.
I want to shift a little bit over to like ads and marketing on the because I want to go deeper in some of the challenges that you might have experienced. But as far as the ads and marketing side of things was concerned, like what were some of the biggest needle movers for like obviously you came in and you were doing the done for you stuff and we like totally pivoted that, which is the first thing that we do for every client. Like I mean you've been through the first thing we do is the offer because it's like they've that's the biggest return on our time possible is let's make sure this is the right offer to scale. Um, and so after we did that for you, obviously we launched the ads and you said like almost instantly you're getting $70, $80 calls. What do you think was that big difference that we were able to help with that allowed you to like immediately start packing the calendar? Was it the offer change? Was it how we wrote the video sales letter, how we structured the ads? Were you working with like Joe? What do you think
Yeah,
was the main difference?
I think it was this the process and the system itself, to be honest. Like because I think we were an ads agency before, but we weren't running lead ads, and now I like love lead ads. Totally
Mhm.
different ball game. Uh, but I think like just seeing I think they just work a lot more effectively, to be honest, for what we're trying to do. So I think the
And
ads themselves, the vehicle and your process was like the biggest change for us.
And just so people that are listening to this, it's like lead ads, but also obviously, if we just did lead ads to a calendar, it's like these people are super unqualified. So
And the
I
funnel
remember we even
itself, like,
shared, yeah, the funnel, like the video sales letter. I remember we even shared it because you know, I won't say ours are ugly, but like we're not here for design and aesthetics. We're just here for an ROI, like which is what we were doing. And I remember looking at yours and be like, oh wow, I think she like made this a little bit nicer, like a little bit like or maybe your style for your clients as well.
it's like it is like simpler still. Like, and I think that was the thing too, like that it doesn't have to be so complicated or so nice to convert. And like, I mean, I'm big into design and branding, so like it's a thing, but it's like they have different purposes, and sometimes the more simple, the more effective.
Yeah. I think that also like even for our branding, it almost simplicity is almost part of our branding to be. I mean, it's one of our values as well, but it is ironic. It's like anytime, for example, you made our pages black like a while ago and made changed the button color to like our logo colors and all, and like conversion started dipping, and I was just like, and I just one day I
Mhm.
remember I stayed up until like midnight. I just changed everything back to like literally white text, open sans fonts, like just as simple as, and everything started converting higher again. So it's kind of funny how, and I'm not knocking branding because now that I've been in this long enough, I do know like branding is really one of the
Value.
biggest. Yeah, it's like one of the biggest modes you can do between you and somebody else for sure. But I just think there's different areas of the offer or the marketing experience that you can kind of brand. When we talk about just in general, like the some of the bottlenecks or challenges that you faced, either before you were working with us or even like during the process of working with us, what would you say are some of the areas like in the past few years in entrepreneurship that you've been like, wow, this has been a struggle, and maybe it's something we helped you with, or maybe it's something that you're still struggling with today?
Yeah, I think it's still something I struggle with, and it's like being the biggest bottleneck, right? Like that I'm the biggest bottleneck, and that the way that I'm trying to do things because I think it's right sometimes is like your ego gets in the way. Just just to say it, but it's like you think that you have to do it this way to succeed, and then you go through it, and you're constantly running up against yourself, if that makes sense.
It
Right? So I
does, and
become the biggest bottleneck. The way that I try to like over deliver becomes a scaling bottleneck 3 months from now, which is what we dealt with, right? So then we had to go back and revise, and
fix
I'm
it.
like constantly doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, what like was that something that when you came to us, um we on our onboarding form we asked, is there anything that might get in the way? Did you I always ask I like to ask this question. Did you put that, were you aware enough to put that in there then? And like
No.
how have you changed it? Was it did we have we helped you with it, or is it like something that you're still just playing with and adjusting over time? Because I can respect and appreciate the self-awareness it takes to say something like that.
Yeah, I think it's a constant. I don't know if it was something that like you guys directly helped me with or something that I've just learned through the experience and something that you say often, right? So you always say like we become the biggest bottleneck or like me throwing in as many one-to-ones as I did because I felt they needed to be there for it to be valuable was just me, right? Like that was just me going up against myself again. And so it's like I think it was like a self-awareness. I always say that like entrepreneurship really is like the biggest spiritual journey you'll ever get because you're forced up against yourself like at every point.
Yes. Yeah. You're like,
So
yeah,
I feel to answer that,
yeah, your ceiling, it's like your ceiling is always the company's ceiling. Or I guess the company's ceiling is always your ceiling is really, I guess, the
yeah.
best way to put it. Yeah. Wow. And I wanted to touch on operations a little bit because once again, it's great. We've worked together for a while now, so it's like we've worked on acquisition, we've worked on fulfillment, and I know some of our conversations recently have been around operations, hiring, stuff like that. Um, when it comes to like the hiring process, the hiring order, stuff like that, we've had that conversation. But when you first came in to Scaling with Systems, did you have a team or an onboarding process or any kind of idea of the hiring order, or what did that look like?
Yeah, I feel like we had a team before that I sort of carried through. But then we had also hired different roles, like having a more CS lead, like that was something we never really had previously because it's a totally different environment. Um, and then in terms of onboarding and ramp up, I think like the biggest area where you guys were super helpful was with like the closer ramp up. So I would have had no idea how to do that. That was beyond me.
And did you end up building? I don't know if this is the case. You know, we have the talent acquisition funnel. Did you build any of that stuff, like the talent video sales letter, or was it like a client of yours? Where did you find your closer?
Actually it was through Ravi.
Oh, cool. Another one of our clients, another one of our SI clients.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah, it
wow.
was one of your
That's
clients.
perfect. I actually love when our clients work together. That's
Mhm.
amazing. And what for people that are watching this right now, what is like one or two lessons you've learned on the onboarding, hiring, ramping process, whether it comes to closer or anybody else?
The biggest thing I think when is finding the right people that align with your values, and that's always something you say too. And so it's like a great reminder, is like making sure that the people that you bring into the ecosystem like align with your values because like it'll just cause more and more headaches as you go if they don't. And I think I've seen that firsthand even in like the year that we've been working together within different environments and especially in the accelerator environment because we are growing fast, you kind of need people that are going to be like in it with you.
Yeah. Did you have values before working with us? Like, was it documented or anything? Because a lot of people, I'd say like
I had
99% of
them
people don't have them.
documented
Okay.
with this one, but not with the previous one. So like I made
Got
them
it.
when I was started hiring, and then I was like, okay, what are the values? And like, uh, I feel like they're constantly changing, but a lot of it is like, you know, people first, putting the people first, the clients first, uh, and having people that really align with that, which is honestly surprising that not a lot of people do. A lot of them might be more like tasks first, right? Like they're thinking of the doing their day to day and their checklist, but they're not thinking of like the client experience as much.
Yeah, one of ours is client centric, right? So it used to be client obsession, but then we always review them every quarter, and one of them is radical transparency. So I'll just be transparent. The question was like, are we like we just thought that obsessed was such a strong word, where like obsession would be like whatever the client wants, they get. Where sometimes we have to have harder conversations like we did with you, which is like, should we pivot this offer? Like is this relationship with the partner working out well? And like I feel like a quote unquote obsessed person wouldn't work. So I think it's okay for it to change, but we wouldn't want them to change all the time, right? It shouldn't be changing like week to week, month to month. But that's cool that did you have the values for the second business? You created them inside Scaling with Systems. Did we? I don't know if we show our values inside of that. Like, where did you think of doing the values for the hiring process?
I think I don't think it was in there. I think it was just something you've talked about before that I was like, I want to do that because I want
Yeah,
that for like our team. I want there to be, and also having not had them and had people churn because they weren't like a good fit. And
yeah.
then the
And
time you waste and like trying to.
ramping them, hiring them, training them. And I think like just to be clear, I like to say this, and I actually love talking about values, but it's like just because somebody is not used to like, a lot of people might not align with that value with people first. I'm not, it's not that that person's a bad person, right? Like when someone doesn't align with your values, it's just like they're just not the right fit for your business. And I think that also gave me the permission to let people go, or turn down offers for people, because I was like, look, it's not that you're a wrong person. It's that this is not the right business for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. And I feel like that's still something I struggle with. Like I definitely struggle with letting people go. I think that's like the
That
hardest.
was our last conversation, it's like, well, I feel like
Yeah,
we just have really difficult conversations sometimes, and it's like, and I almost feel like what you need to do, right? It's like you're kind of hinting
I
at it a
do.
little bit, and then you just like let me rant for 20 minutes, and then you're just like, okay. I think that was what you did last time. I was like, I talked for 20 minutes straight, and then you just said okay, and I was like, all
No,
right,
it was
either.
like, you know what that was like a reality check. Like that was like me taking it in and being like, yeah, you were right.
Whenever I
I
get
am
that kind
not.
of feedback, I'm always like, oh gosh, either exactly that, they're like, wow, that was totally right, or they're just like, yeah, he didn't answer my question at all, and like that wasn't helpful at all. So I'm
No, no,
glad.
no. It was like, oh no, like it was like, and I did it like right after that call too. It was like,
Oh, you did. We haven't spoken since then, right? So you did. Oh, nice.
yeah,
Okay, yeah, that's a
fast
different.
implementer. So
I like that. Hey, that's how you got the success that you did. So that's awesome. Final few questions I have for you here. One is like just in general. Since you've been working a little over a year right now, is there a few areas you would say that like your life has kind of changed a little bit, whether it's like more time freedom that you have now, like a clearer roadmap of what the next steps are, money, whatever else it is? Like, is there one or two areas that you're like, yeah, this is my life in general, not just business, but my life in general has changed since working with you guys?
yeah, I think it's truly the mindset of like scaling has shifted a lot. Like whereas like coming out of the model that we were in before, like it was just so hard. And like the struggle was like I was like, oh man, like it's painful like every step of the way. Whereas like now I'm like my questions for myself are different. Like I know I can hit $1 million as quickly as I want. Do I want to? Like that's a very different question to be asking is like how quickly do I really want to go? Because I know I can do it now and I have that and it's like it's already grown like much quicker than I thought. And so now my question is like, how quickly do I want to scale this? How do I align with that? A lot of the same questions, like you bring this up too, in our calls is like, what do I want my life to look like with this? And how do I want to do that? So those are the questions I've been asking myself, especially like through the new year and like the new pivots, like we're moving even more. Like how am I making this more in alignment with myself and my values as well as for my clients?
Oh man, that was a great answer. I haven't heard that in a little bit, honestly. If you want to, I'm kind of curious, like, is there any now that, so just to recap, like what, and that's really one of the main things we aim at scaling with systems is like most people just don't even know how to scale a business. And so they don't have an option of like, should I scale or should I not scale? It's like they're just trying to figure out how to scale. It's like now you
Totally.
have the ingredients and we've done it before. How do I can just click this button, turn this ad on, do this thing, and boom, the business is going to scale. But the question now is almost like this like esoterical one, which is like, do I even want to
Mhm.
scale in the first place? It's like almost like you have to have money to say that, oh, money's not the kind of root of all happiness. Like what for you, and once again, you can just tell me that you want an answer, but like for your new year transition, were there like a few things that you're like, you know what? Like, unless I fix this, like I feel like I need to block off my time and keep this personal. Like, what were some of those shifts that are making you say, like, once again, it's not going to be full pedal to the metal, gas down from from like beginning to end, and I want to either do self care or I want to take some time. What were some of those shifts that made you do that?
Yeah, I think like I think the transition I had to make, like the way that I had packaged it originally was like way too heavy on my time. And so now I'm just eliminating that from the process, from the program as much as possible. So that I can have more time, more freedom for sure. And I think now my work, like as I continue, is like how can I continue to scale and make sure I'm not becoming the bottleneck of that again, like taking away from my own time because I feel like I need to do it this way to scale. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think what could be helpful for you too. I journal. I probably talked about it before daily, and I ask myself prompts inside of there. And the last prompt I always ask myself three questions, but the last one is always, what could I eliminate, automate, delegate today to get back more time. And then the follow-up question to that is, where could I add leverage or remove recurring tasks? And like just doing that slowly over time. Even we had a team leader meeting today talking about bringing something back in for our clients, but it would require all this one-on-one time for my leadership. Like they would each have to be on a one-on-one
Mhm.
call a few times a week. And I was like, I'm sure it would be valuable to our clients, but like I know the bottlenecks when it comes to one-on-one. And I literally thought of that this morning. I was like, I just don't think that's the right way. Almost never. Like, obviously, with us, we do one-on-ones. I think you just had Joe the other day. You had one and he said it was really, really great. So we do one-on-ones, but I think just being even aware of how valuable your time actually is, it like just makes you shift the meaning of money in the first place. And it's no longer like, can I just go out there and earn as much money as possible? It's now like, I have a dollar per hour amount, whether it's $500, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, whatever. And anything less than that, even if it means I'm saying no to money, I just simply won't do.
Yeah, yeah, that's a really great. I think like the belief system that I have to work on, like hearing that is like, can I automate, eliminate, and delegate without sacrificing value of the program and like success and their experience? Like, I think that's where I always have struggled. And like, that's where my battle with the one-to-ones was like, because that's kind of what goes through my mind is like, what is going to provide them with like the deepest transformation, the deepest, like, and that like the high quality experience to get them there. But that being said, what I noticed on the one-to-one front is like they don't need them half the time. Like they really don't. Like they can get their questions answered on a group call in 15 minutes and go to town and continue to take action versus sitting on a one-to-one call asking what my next step is. Right? Like
Yeah. It's, I think the other piece of it, like, oh, I'm happy we're having this conversation because people are going to watch this and hopefully they're going to get some value out of it as well. But I think a lot of people equate, like, I think there's a few things you said that I just wanted to give you a few tips on. So the first is that um, time doesn't equal value, right? Like that's the first thing and foremost. I'm very adamant against meetings in our company, meetings with our clients. Once again, that we still have them, but our meetings are like incredibly specific. Like they're mandatory to get to the next stage, and people have to come to those meetings, show it like with homework done, and we're planning out the next steps, et cetera, et cetera. It's not just like, oh, it's on the calendar, I get this one-on-one, let's just do it. And like even shifting the focus of what meetings are in the first place has been massive for us. The second thing is one of the things, like not to toot our own horn, but I know that obviously you wouldn't be on this call unless you have enjoyed working with us. And I love to use us as a case study. You know what I mean? Like we have incredible success with our clients, and I'm not answering every single person's question inside Slack all day long, right? So like it's a great example of like what you could. That's what Eric. I just had a case study right before you. And that's what he was saying. He was like, I didn't even know it was possible in our industry to like really remove a lot the founder, like you or I from the business until I worked with you. And it's like, wow, I'm getting all these results. He just had his first six-figure cash month collected, and I'm like, and you're not even involved in that process. Obviously, we're still talking, and I am involved in it, but me trading my time for money, and that was like a 2 year long process. But I hope that like at least gives you some insights. And the third thing that I'll say is that when it comes to your clients and the transformation, this is something that I had to learn a while ago as well. Is like, I can tell, like, obviously you're an incredible person and you care about your clients' results. There's no doubt about it. But, when you really think about a true service, typically it's like a specific outcome, right? It's like this person's coming to you to get this thing. They're getting their ads launched, they're getting more sales calls on the calendar, whatever else it is. What I have noticed, at least in like the coaching, consulting, somewhat done for you world, is that like because it is coaching, it feels like you have to do so much for the clients for them to receive a transformation. And that was a shift that we made a year and a half ago because we were getting clients that were hitting like 100K months, 200K months after they'd been there for 3 months, but then they were still saying like, I need more, I need more. And like we had 4x their business, 5x their business. And I think it's Parkinson's law, which is work expands to fill the amount of time that you give it. So it's like, if you set the expectation where it's like, we're going to take you to a $2 million business, or even what you said, we take you to 6-figure months, like, we used to say that as well. And then we realized like, wow, okay, if we took somebody and they were doing 20K a month and we take them to 60K a month, essentially tripling their business in 30 days or 60 days, that would be an unbelievable experience, especially because most people that work with us have been in the same spot for 1 or 2 or 3 years, right? So it's like, and remember, when you make the change, you had said it earlier, it's like you make the we've worked together. And now let's say, we don't work together in the future, which I would hate that. We love working with you, but it's like you're leaving and you have what you need to go to the next level. So when you go to $1 million a month, like I would imagine some of it's based on what like you had worked on with us and what we had implemented with you. But I'm
Totally.
not going to tell you like we're going to go to $1 million a month together, right? But like that journey. So does that, I know I'm rambling a little bit here, but does that make sense? The difference, like we stopped making these like 6-figure months and I still see people promising it. But the problem is that when you set that expectation from the very beginning, first of all, a lot of people don't believe you. And second of all, you end up with just mismatched expectations and it's never, ever good enough. Like, a girlfriend or boyfriend relationships, like lying in the beginning, not that anybody's lying, but setting improper expectations versus being like, we're going to do this one thing for you better than anybody else. And then that's when you can start getting into like the productization game a little bit.
Yeah, and I think like the way that we've gotten around that for sure is like we just say it's the system to get you to 6-figure months. So then we don't say like we're going to get you to 6-figure months, but so you can scale that way and beyond. So it's like we've put the foundation into creating the scalable group program now versus just like the number. So it's a different experience for them coming in, like because there were totally unrealistic expectations. And like I have had clients that have like, gone from zero to like 100K and like,
Sure.
but it's like not, it's not in the way that they think either,
And
right?
it's
Like
also
it's just
not
there.
like that's not like that's a certain type of person that in like 30, 60,
Yeah,
90 days, like you said, I'm a
totally.
fast implementer. Like not everybody's a fast implementer. Like when and
Totally.
we worked with 1,300 people and like so I can say for without a doubt that not everybody is the exact same. But once again, it's like we live in this world where if you're not doing $100,000 a month, people think they're a failure. But in reality, it's like okay, in 60 days, if we doubled your business, like the average, like if you put that same money that you invest with us in the stock market, you would have gotten what is it? Let's say 7% a year divided by 12, like whatever that is, like 0.3% of
Totally.
your money instead of like a 10,000% return. So I think it's all kind of relative a little bit, but are you feeling a little bit different since you made that change to like, this is the system? Do you feel like that's a little bit different for the expectations of the clients now?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's more like I think we're still refining that, and I should probably go back and refine it more. Like even hearing that, I'm like, oh, that's totally partly. I can definitely see where that's like happened for us. Um, but it's just meant to be like we're helping you build out your foundation, like sustainable scaling foundations is kind of like what we're talking about for them, and like really like the focus for us is like the open enrollment group model, like pushing people into that and then getting them to
Yeah.
go forth.
Final question for you is people watching this video, like maybe it's on YouTube, maybe it's in an ad, something like that. Just like you, they've seen me on YouTube, watched a few videos, they've seen me elsewhere, whatever else it is, and they haven't pulled the trigger yet, whether they're scared, they don't know what's on the other side, et cetera, et cetera. If you were able to talk to those people and convince them, what would you tell them?
Everything you want lies on the other side of fear. Just do it.
I love it. Like fortune cookie action here. Yeah. I mean, that's incredible. I appreciate you saying that, Megan. We've loved having you as a client. When I was like, hey, I want to do some case studies, who do you guys recommend? Your name came up for like 3 of the client success managers. So we love working with you, hopefully as much as you love working with us. For the people that are watching this right now and they want to learn a little bit more about you, what you do, either on the personal side or the business side, what's like the best place they can find you?
Yeah, you can find me at Megan Faye on Instagram and on YouTube.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan, so much for hopping on here. And if you guys are watching this video and you are still thinking of working with us, I recommend going below this video and booking a call to speak with our team. Thanks, guys.